Hi, I'm Mike. Welcome to the last day of haying. I've got one more bale to make. It's a little one, but it means a lot to the ranch. Today we're going to take a look at haying 2023 and how much it cost the ranch and how much it saved the ranch. It's all coming up on Our Wyoming Life. And there it is, the last bale of 2023, a whopping 42-inch bale that means a whole lot. Haying is a season on the ranch that I think we love to hate. It's long, it's dirty, it's mechanicking, it's driving in circles, and it's something that we have to do, but it's not something we love doing. But when you're done with it, it does give you kind of an interesting and very nice feeling that you've accomplished something that's going to last the whole ranch an entire year. And it's not hard to understand why, because this is what sustains the ranch. This little bit of time, this little space of time on the ranch, a few weeks, sustains the ranch for an entire winter, a whole, well, could be more than 180 days of the year. And it's nice to be able to just kick back and kind of take a look at things and how we got through this and how the whole thing actually does benefit the ranch. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know if it benefits the ranch or not. For lots of years, when we first came here to the ranch back in 2008 and we started haying back in 2009 was our first haying year. And there was no looking at the numbers. There was no knowing how much it cost to hay. You knew you had repairs, you had fuel costs, you had all that kind of stuff, but there was never something that was actually talked about, at least to me, about how much all of this stuff costs. I didn't see the bill. But I do know now that we do see the bill. So being able to compare the costs of alternatives to haying to doing all this is very imperative, and we have to do it every single year because things can change. There's inflation, there's fuel costs, there's machine costs, all that stuff comes into play. And it may get to the point someday where it's actually cheaper to buy hay or hire somebody to come and do all of our cutting. Custom cutting is what they call it. And we're going to take a look for the first time at all three of those things. The price compared to buying hay, having somebody come and cut it for you, or just doing it yourself. And since we're all done haying, you get to drive this tractor back with me. We're going to take it back to the shop, and we're going to talk about all those things along the way. Before we take off here, let's talk about our yield. That's the most important part of this, and we want to make sure that we get those numbers down correctly. So I brought a little piece of paper and a pencil so that we can compare numbers as we go. This is not put together at all in advance. What I want to do is actually show you guys exactly how we figure this out. And a lot of times we do it in the field. Gilbert used to do a lot of his figuring on the back of his checkbook just because he had that with him all the time. And we do kind of the same as we move through. A lot of times we don't have time to go sit down and figure it out, taking a look, building spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff. But I do have one spreadsheet that I do use throughout haying. And that is our hay yield spreadsheet. So I'm going to show that to you now. And what this does is actually show us exactly how many bales we get off each field and how much each bale can weigh and total yield and all that kind of good stuff. So I actually keep it also on my phone so that I have it everywhere I go. We know that, for example, on Jim's field, we had 150 acres to cut. we baled 113 bales. Oil well field was 45 bales, and we can add all those up, and we ended up with 405 bales. Now, we know our bales average about 1,400 pounds. So total tons taken off is 284 tons of hay. And when you start breaking it down by acre, we didn't do that great. And I think we usually we want to go for about a bale an acre, which would be really nice. We cut a total of 562 acres this year. And if we would have done that, we would have had 562 bales. But I think one of the things we ran into, especially this year, is we got a lot of moisture, which was great. But there's the trifecta that we need to actually grow really good hay. And that's, we need the moisture, we need the correct temperatures, and we need the correct amount of sunlight. And this year, temperatures really didn't work with us. We had some really cool temperatures all the way into July. In fact, on the 4th of July, it was only 55 degrees for a high. So we didn't get those really good temperatures that we needed to get this stuff to boost up. But we did average just a little bit over 1,000 pounds per acre, which isn't great, but it's definitely not the worst that we've seen here on the ranch. So we've got 284 tons of feed to work with over winter. And winter can be very arbitrary. We don't know how long it's going to last. But I usually just like to say it's 6 months of winter here on the ranch. So that's 180 days of winter that we're going to be feeding. We know that each cow will eat an average of about 30 pounds of food per day. So if we take a look at just our breeding herd, and we know that each cow is going to eat an average of 25 to 30 pounds per day. Smaller cows are going to eat less, bigger cows are going to eat more, but we average about that 25 to 30 pounds. Even if we go on the 30-pound range, it's probably a little bit high. So I'm going to say 25, and if we have 50 cows in our breeding herd, and we take the 50 times 25, that's 1,250 pounds a day. And we make our bales right at 1,400 pounds. So that actually gives us a little bit of a buffer. So now we know if we feed a bale a day to the breeding cows, that we're going to be all set. Now we put up, what did we say, 284 tons, 405 bales. So of that 405 bales, we're just going to take 180 of them right away to go towards our breeding herd. Now we're left with 225 bales. Those 225 bales are going to be going towards the feedlot and everything else we're going to need. So I think we have plenty of feed. In fact, we actually have some left over from last year as well that we're going to be feeding up early. We've got about, let's see, 64, probably about 100 bales left over from last year that we're going to be able to rotate in. So that's really good. We're looking good. 325 bales left. So the first part of the equation is done. We know we have enough food to make it through the winter. But the big question that I always have, is this all worth it? Is it worth going through all this trouble? We know we put up 284 tons of hay. So a pretty simple thing that we can do right away is go into Facebook Marketplace or wherever you find your hay that's for sale in your area and take a look and see what people are selling hay for. Let's say we didn't put up any hay and we had to buy the 284 tons that we put up this year. How much would that really cost us? Well, I found this posting, 2023 grass alfalfa hay, $120 per bale. Now, it doesn't tell me how much these bales weigh, so that's kind of a tricky thing. You really got to know that. But I'm going to just guess, and they say they weigh the same amount as ours do. I did see some that were 1,100 pound bales for about the same price, but these are a little bit closer to us and a little bit closer to what we're putting up. Now, we don't have a whole lot of alfalfa, but this clover definitely adds protein to what we've got. We are going to just kind of use this $120 per bale as a good average, and of course it works out well if we say it's about the same weight as ours. So we have 405 bales times $120 per bale, so that's $48,600 worth of hay. Pretty simple. Now that's if we buy all the hay that we put up here on the ranch. Now, the other option that we have is actually hiring people to come in and cut the hay for us. That's called custom cutting. People come in with their own equipment. They've got swathers and rakes and balers of their own. So if we hired somebody to come in here and cut this, and the normal way that it's done around here is on a split. So it would be a 60-40 split. So we would actually lose 40% of our hay crops. So of those 280 or 405 bales, sorry, that we put up, we would lose 40% of those. So we would lose 162 bales. So after we feed our cows the 180 bales they need, we would actually only have 63 bales left, which really just does not give us the buffer that we need. So just by the math, I can tell that we need to be able to put up our own hay. It just totally makes sense to be able to do that without giving a whole bunch of it away to a custom cutter, and we don't want to have to buy it. Then we've got money going out the window, that $48,600. And that doesn't include the trucking cost to get it here, which trucking cost is going up, all the time. If we had to buy 405 bales and we put it on trucks and we get 34 bales per truck, that's 12 truckloads, and we're looking at about $6 a loaded mile for 100 miles, so $600 a truckload. That's another $7,200 on top of that, bringing the cost of the hay, if we purchased it, all the way up to $55,800 with trucking. We know that buying hay is kind of out of the question. We also know that having somebody come in and cut it for us, while it would be nice, is kind of out of the question as well. So now it's time to actually start talking about how much it actually did cost us to put up all this hay. Now, we've got 3 or 4 major costs that come into this. We have fuel costs, so let's take a look at fuel. We also have labor costs, because we like to get paid for our time and our work. We have repairs. We have depreciation of the tractors. When it comes down to actually taking a look at like taxes or property taxes and stuff like that, I usually don't roll that into haying fees, mostly because I'm going to pay that anyway for the cows to be out here grazing. So I don't usually roll that in. But you know what, we could even take, if you take, the 562 or 562 acres that we cut, and you roll that into the ranch, and you say, we cut 1/10 of the ranch for hay, or a little bit more than that, 12% of the ranch for hay, then, we could take 12% of our property taxes and roll that into the cost of haying as well. So let's just put that in there. And we'll say taxes were $600 for hay. Let's do that. Depreciation, we don't really have to worry about. All of our tractors are actually old enough that they have been depreciated out already. Depreciation is where you take the original cost of the tractor and you figure out what the resale value would be, and you divide that by the years and do all that kind of stuff. But actually, we've used these tractors long enough, we've depreciated them out already on our taxes. So it's actually technically not costing us anything to run the tractors themselves, except for repairs and fuel. Fuel was a little high this year. When we actually went through, how much fuel did we go through? About 350 gallons of fuel. Now, we kept track of that as we filled up vehicles, as we went around doing this. This does not include gator fuel coming out to drop off stuff or to give yourself a ride out to the field. Although, you could figure all that stuff if you really wanted to get nitpicky on every single thing. 350 gallons of fuel went into our tractors this year, and we paid for all of that fuel. I have to average it because it was actually over time, $3.72, as we refilled our fuel tank, our bulk tank, a couple times. So $3.72 a gallon for diesel, $350, so $1,300 went in for fuel. Repairs are always the tough one. A lot of times we don't actually see the bills for repairs until after we get done with haying. We're well past haying because we get billed out by John Deere or whoever comes out to work on stuff. We had one major repair this year. That was our shaft on the baler, and that needed repaired. I'm going to guess, I haven't seen a bill yet for that, but I'm going to guess that was a $1,500 bill. So I'm going to put that under the repair section for $1,500. And then we had all of our maintenance, which I like to include in repairs as well, on each one of the tractors. Now, I know that we replaced filters and we changed the oil and all that kind of stuff. We probably averaged about $500 per tractor. So I'm going to say another $1,500 in maintenance. So that gives us $3,000 in repairs and maintenance. So we're up to $4,300 to get us ready for haying. Labor is the tough one because technically, I mean, we don't write ourselves a check for haying. We're just doing our job, right? How many hours do we have out here? It's kind of an arbitrary thing also because you have a lot of travel time and tractors and stuff like that. But if I had to sit down and figure out over the last couple weeks that we've been haying, I would figure that per field, I know exactly how much we need to put into it. So each field that we cut is, we cut a total of 562 acres. I know that when we rake, or let's start with mowing. When we mow, we are mowing at about 11 acres an hour. So we cut 562 acres, we can divide that by 11, and we know we have 50 hours into mowing. Raking is half of that, because the rake is twice as big as the mower, so 25, and then the baler falls right along inside that same thing, 25. So we have 100 man hours into actually haying these fields. So if you even just took that 100 hours and you take it times $15 an hour, that's $1,500 in labor cost. I don't get paid. Jeff is volunteering, but we'll roll that in just to make ourselves feel better about the whole thing. So now we are at $5,800 for our entire cost of putting up all our hay. We know that we put up 405 bales, so we can divide that by 405, and we are at $14.32 per bale. That's not bad. In fact, I would actually round that up to 15, just to catch any costs that might fall in there. Oh, and I forgot to add in my tax. So let's do that. So let's see, $1,300 for fuel, $1,500 for labor, which technically we didn't really pay, $3,000 for repairs. We'll add in the $600 for taxes and all that. And then, you know what? Let's do this. Let's add in another $500 for incidentals, just for kicks and grins. Now we're at $7,000. Nice round number. And we divide that by our 405 bales. We're still only looking at $17.28 per bale. Just because I'm feeling good about this whole thing, I'm going to round that up to $20 per bale. So now we go back to buying this stuff, and $55,800 to buy it, to have it trucked here to the ranch, if it's at average 100 miles away, compared to $7,000. It's a no-brainer. We have to be able to put up our own hay. If we had given away half of that hay or 40% of that hay, we would have lost a lot more money. So that's the cost of haying in 2023. $7,000 is what it costs the ranch. And we hope that we can keep those numbers low. We don't want to have to do repairs. We don't want to have to do all this stuff. But if you can put up bales for $20 a piece, and then you could turn around and sell them for $120, why wouldn't you do that? I'd like to think that folks have a lot more stuff wrapped up into hay than I'm even figuring in. If you actually went down and you wanted to figure out exactly how much went into each bale of hay, you might have to go through and figure out how much it costs you to seed that field, which we haven't done. These are just natural prairie grass fields, so I don't have to figure that in for myself. But somebody could be seeding and plowing and tilling and all that kind of good stuff. They've got a cost of a seeder involved in it. They got the cost of seed, and that's going to bring up the value of a bale of hay. However, for us, it makes sense to do it ourselves, a little DIY. So that's the cost of haying in 2023, but we're not quite done. We still have, hopefully, some small square bales that we want to put up to make our lives a little bit easier over the winter. We've set aside about 15 acres to do that. However, we don't have a small square baler, and we've been working on trying to find one, to borrow one from a neighbor or something like that. That's still in the works. If it doesn't work, then we'll go bale some, large bales again and have to deal with everything. But we're hoping to be able to put up some small square bales to make it easier to feed animals in the barn, the goats, stuff like that. You're not peeling off of these great big bales. Hopefully we're able to get that figured out. We'll be able to bring that to you guys in a video as well. But in the meantime, this has been a fun little quick video to be able to show you guys exactly how much money goes in, how much time goes in as well. The amount of hours that go into haying are incredible. And this year we did get a late start. This is actually about the latest that we finished haying here on the ranch. We had a lot of rain in the beginning of the season that we were trying to wait out before we actually got started. I think we did pretty good. The big thing was the clover this year, the amount of clover that we had. That clover, we had to make sure it was completely dry when we put it up so that we don't have any issues with that, including bloat or anything else. We don't want to have to deal with that. So we are going to be mixing hay as we feed it. We're also going to test our hay pretty extensively this year. We want to know what the nitrates levels are. We want to know our protein level and basically all the nutritional information that we can get out of this hay. So gang, that's pretty much it. I'm super happy to be done with haying. Moving on to the next step on the ranch. I hope that you can subscribe and follow along as we explore the ranch life and escape the ordinary. Big project coming up is actually going to be moving all this hay off of these fields, especially down here in summer pasture where we want to get the cows pushed down to eventually. So we've got lots of work to do, lots of projects coming up on the ranch and all that kind of good stuff. We want you guys to be able to join us for that and keep track of what we've got going on. We've got new animals on the ranch we're going to be introducing to you guys very soon. Not only just our lambs, but we've also got our alpacas we're going to be getting to hang out with, and animal updates on the way. It's going to be a lot of fun. I need some coffee because it's early and I'm happy to be done, but there's lots of work on the way. So be sure to follow, and I'll see you next time right here on Our Wyoming Life.